2. Welcome to the booth here at Mythic Championship 2, ladies and gentlemen, live from London in the United Kingdom. My name's Riley Knight, joined by Simon Gertzen. And Simon, we have some players with very, very good records heading into this round. Yuuya Watanabe and Thien Nguyen. Both of these guys just one loss each. So things really coming towards the pointy end of the tournament here as we head towards our cut for top 8. You see these two superstars on your stage. Simon, we've already checked in with these guys limited, but now it's time for some modern.
Absolutely, I'm excited.
We're going to get things underway right here and right now with Thien Nguyen on TitanShift, Scape Shift. One of the, well, it's a ramp deck, it's a combo deck, but it can also smash face with a 6/6 prime time, of course. And here we have the bad guy of the format, the villain that is Tron, of course. Going to kick things off here. Watanabe off to a poor start, Simon, with a mulligan to 5. Although Tron, under the London mulligan, definitely one of the decks that mulligans a bit better.
There was a whole article about how Tron's 5-card hands might be even comparable to 7-card hands. I don't quite buy this, but in this matchup, it's really about the Tron player hitting Karn or some really scary cards early on.
Thien Nguyen has been on a tear so far. We see both of these players at 10-1, and Nguyen very handily 3-0ing his draft as we saw throughout the first rounds of the broadcast today. Heading into Modern, he was pretty confident. I actually got the chance to catch up with Thien about his deck choice and some of the card choices in it, because Simon, I'll tell you what, he's getting a bit buck wild with his Scape Shift list, I'll tell you that. Only 3 copies of Lightning Bolt in the main, and the only other red card in his main deck is Chandra, Torch of Defiance. I'll talk about that in a little bit, but one card that I want to highlight here is 0 copies of Anger of the Gods. Instead, 3 copies of Mwanvuli Acid Moss, and that is exactly the type of card you want in this matchup against a land-based deck.
Absolutely. This is actually probably the #1 reason why he decided to play Mwanvuli Acid Moss, knowing that Tron would be popular or more popular. Everybody was talking about Tron as one of the benefactors of the London Mulligan in particular. So playing that main deck land destruction that has its utility also outside of that matchup is probably a pretty smart thing.
And Nguyen went on to point out to me that the fact that Mwanvuli Acid Moss has a huge amount of utility in any linear matchup, especially the combo decks. On the play, you can expect very, very often to destroy your opponent's second land on turn 3. So they go Steam Vents Island, and you're like, yep, turn 3, I've sacked my Secura Tribe Elder, and I'm going to blow up one of your lands, get one of my own, and you're just miles ahead at that point.
Absolutely. I always try to remind our viewers of the 5 big archetypes. So we have Dredge and Arclight Phoenix. Then we have humans, Blue-White Control, and Tron. And that Mwanvuli Acid Moss is great against 2 of them, but also decent against humans because it still ramps you into those Primeval Titans.
I mean, if you're Mwanvuli Acid Mossing a turn 2, on turn 3, the second land drop of a white-blue player, they're going to be in big trouble.
Oh yeah, that's backbreaking.
Now, look at this. Old Snaky Steve's getting busy here. He's going to get in for 1 and knock Watanabe down to 19. And of course, one of the things that Scape Shift does, it combos off as soon as it has 4 lands in play. It can go and get a Valakut and 6 other mountains with a Scape Shift as long as it's got 7 lands. But that only does 18 damage. And so sometimes we see the old Secura Tribe Elder getting in for a couple of points to knock an opponent down to 18.
Yeah, and it looks like Nguyen hasn't really gotten there so far.
No.
And despite Yuuya's 2 mulligans, he's very shortly going to assemble Tron.
So things actually turning around a little bit here for the Japanese superstar to the left-hand side of your screen. An MPL player, of course, and a Hall of Famer, one of the biggest names in Magic. Thien Nguyen, his hand wasn't great, and it hasn't got any better. There is that Scape Shift, of course, the signature card of this list, and a Lightning Bolt, which, Simon, it's not doing much in this matchup.
Absolutely, might as well be a dead card here, except for the fact that you can get your opponent down to 18 with that as well.
But that's a better draw here. Primeval Titan, and that's going to come down as early as next turn here for Nguyen. So Watanabe now is actually much more incentivized, much more in a much greater need to find some action.
I wanted to highlight this specific matchup. The thing is, usually Tron has inevitability in almost all matchups, but against Scape Shift, because it's this kind of combo deck that you cannot disrupt with your Ugins, even with your Karns, it's really not that disruptible. You're just going to lose to Scape Shift most of the time. It's also really difficult to get a Wormcall engine active and gain life with it.
had the chance to catch up with Dr. Tron himself, Anand Alagapan, one of the old school players of Tron. He's played it for years and years, and he gave me some insight onto this matchup as well. He characterized it as pretty unfavorable for Tron pre-board because Scapeship can just go off. Unless it's, I mean, the turn 3 card will beat almost anything. But outside of that, Tron doesn't, as you say, doesn't have the edge that it normally does against most decks in terms of inevitability. But post-board, we're going to see things shift, Simon. We're going to see Thought Not Seer come in, which is really going to wreak havoc with the hand and as the life total as well of the Scapeshift player. So post-board, it's a slightly different dance. But Nguyen, I was very interested to hear his approach to not just this matchup, but the format in general. He said there were two things that informed his deck choices here. The first was he wanted interaction that was useful in a wide range of circumstances. He wanted to play Lightning Bolt because it's good. It's not necessarily good in every matchup, but it has a target in every matchup, right? So that's point number one. Secondly, he wanted hard-hitting, almost silver bullet-like hammer cards, right, for things like Dredge. Is it Phoenix? So he's got his Relics of Progenitus. He's got his Monvolia Acid Moss. But the other thing that he said, which is really interesting, is that he took out cards like Anger of the Gods, because with open deck lists, players, especially the best players in the world here at the Mythic Championship, they will not allow you to get the most value out of your Angers. They won't bring back their prized amalgams if they know that you're sitting on 3 copies of Anger.
It's a huge difference whether they know exactly how many Angers you have, or if they just have to guess, is it 0 or is it 3 in the main deck.
I think I'm really impressed with Thien Nguyen as well, not just as a player of this archetype, and not just we saw him do good work in the feature match area before, but just his general bearing. I've been really impressed with the way that he's carried himself. He plays at lightning speed, as we've seen, and a really, really impressive player. And I hope we see a lot more from this bloke in the future, because I think he's got big things in his future, to be honest. Right now, however, the biggest thing in his future is trying to beat Yuuya Watanabe in game number 1 here of round 12. And here's Primeval Titan. Let me check my watch, Simon. Oh, look at that. It's prime time. Search out a couple of lands, and Tron, oh, it's not Tron, sorry, Valakut already very close to being active here.
And that many lands means Yuuya knows any Scapeshift is going to be lethal. And we're not talking about the difference of gaining 6 life with Wormcoil Engine. This is far out of the realm of damage that Yuuya will be able to sustain, especially if Primeval Titan gets to attack next turn.
Yeah.
It's definitely going to be over.
And now we get to the point as well in the Scapeshift players. You know, it's the perfect situation for the Scapeshift player, as we see an Oblivion Stone off the top here for Watanabe. Every card they draw is live. Normally we get to a situation where drawing lands is terrible, but in this situation, a land for Nguyen is double Lightning Bolt. A Farseek is double Lightning Bolt. A Secure Tribelder, double Lightning Bolt. A Lightning Bolt, single Lightning Bolt. But that's the flaw, Simon.
Yeah, if your Lightning Bolt is weaker than half of your deck.
If you'd rather draw basic Mountain than Lightning Bolt, you're doing something very special indeed. And this is one of the things that really draws me to TitanShift. I did have it as one of my decks to watch going into this weekend. I'm a big fan of it just because it's easy. I mean, that's the reason that I'm personally drawn to it. Is that
at least you're being honest.
I mean, the reason I like playing TitanShift is because it's basically a sorcery speed deck. And all you need to know to play it well is your 3x tables, which I've recently mastered, Simon. You'll be happy to know them all the way up to 30, 33, but then I start to get confused.
Yeah, but that covers most of the games. So
yeah, for sure. Yeah. Unless you're very, you're playing something very silly, and then I don't know. I've never come across a situation where I've needed to count higher than 30, so that's very lucky for me. But I think it's actually not a completely indefensible choice. One of the reasons, Simon, that I think people will have been at an advantage playing Scapeshift is that no one's gunning for it.
Yep.
Blood Moon, Alpine Moon, cards like this, Land Destruction, it's at a sort of a bit of a nadir here. People aren't playing these cards.
I agree, and it's not too surprising when you see what people are actually gunning towards, right? There's some hate against Tron, but it's not necessarily based on that. And
here we see Thien Nguyen taking it out in a relatively leisurely fashion. Now, in fairness, Yuuya Watanabe on a mulligan to 5, which is not a great position to be in, but really impressed with the American's play there. He just went from strength to strength, sort of weathered out a couple of bad draws and took it home. So that is that for game number 1, ladies and gentlemen. Stick with us. We'll be back live from London with more action for the Mythic Championship after this.
I found Thomas Hendricks, and we're going to crack a pack of War of the Spark, and I want to know what your pack 1, pick 1 card's going to be.
Hopefully something good. there's a lot of good of the God Eternals, which are unbelievable and limited. So hopefully you can get some of those. Well, there's just some comments. Like this card, because it grows. It's good with the spell stacks.
Ignite the Beacon. Do you like that card? What do you think?
I do not think it's very good, but I'm not sure. Like, if you have a bunch of good planeswalkers, you can surprise your opponent with some end-step searching. I don't think I would pick that card. Yeah, I'll probably select the Evolution Sage. I think the Proliferate decks are quite good. There's a lot of like good cards, for example, like this, to like, put a counter on even a creature that doesn't have it yet, and then you just keep pumping your whole team, like, make a big army. So yeah, I would select the Evolution Sage.
Why do you think Evolution Sage is so good for you right here?
Yeah, I mean, it's just a creature. You play it, and like normally your lands are at some point abundant and limited, and with this you just keep getting value. Like the longer the game goes, the more value you get. So you just win like longer games more easily.
And you mentioned the Proliferate deck. If I'm looking to build a Proliferate deck, what colors should I try and be in, do you think?
Yeah, I think that the way it's built, the set is built, the green-white is the most suited for it, but it has happened for me to be like green-black or other color combinations too, so yeah, I think green-white's the best.
Do you like green-white as a color combo in this set just on its face value?
I think green-white's good, yeah. I would hope to draft it from this pack at least.
All right, there you go. Evolution Sage from Thomas Hendricks here with the War of the Spark. Pack one, pick one.
Welcome back to the feature match area here at Mythic Championship II, live from London. My name's Riley and I'm joined by Simon Gertson and my friends. It's party time. We're going to jump over to our back table here. Samuel Pardy on the left-hand side of your screen versus Matthew Sperling. We got a tale of the old versus the new. Hardened Scales Affinity on the left, but the curmudgeonly old dinosaur that is Matthew Sperling. He's sick of these new things, Simon. He's sticking with the good old tried and tested old school Affinity 1.0.
Yeah, look at that Ornithopter. That has seen some things in its life.
Oh yeah, that Ornithopter has been around. I mean, that Ornithopter is almost as old as the ruins of the Berlin Wall there, I would say.
Oh, there's an experimental frenzy at the top of the screen, so that shows us that Matt is not completely opposed to new things. No,
just mostly. Just mostly here. As we see now, Experimental Frenzy is certainly a new piece of technology in the Affinity list, but it's not going to be enough here as we wrap things up very, very quickly. We did just a very quick live look in there on the robots, so the fans of our robot overlords around the world, your hunger has been at least a little sated here. A little screen time for Arcbound Ravager, everyone's favourite beast there. And we'll see if we can jump over instead to our other table here with João Andrade out of Portugal against Giuseppe Sacco. And this is Affinity 2.0. We got two Hardened Scales Affinity lists going at it against each other here, Simon. This one looks to be a little bit quieter, just the Arcbound Ravager on the left there, Spellskite, Welding Jar, and a single little Thopterino on the right-hand side for Sacco.
It looks like there has been a little bit of Trados. That Dismember in Joao's graveyard seems to have taken out a 1/1 Hangerback Walker. The interesting thing here is with Spellskite on the battlefield, your modular is effectively shut down. So that is the main reason why Giuseppe brings it in this matchup.
Yeah, it's even in his main deck here.
Oh, wow.
So that's actually a very good call considering the amount of Hardened Scales we've seen flying around the top tables of the tournament. I mean, it has certainly a lot of other uses as well. It'll sort of throw a spanner in the works for many plans that you're gonna lay with your modern decks. But all the same, it is a utility card and it is a little fringe. So I think a one-off in the main deck is a decent call.
Yeah. I wouldn't play multiples because then you just have starting hands against blue-white control where you can't even put on any pressure.
Yeah, you just sit there and thinking, geez, I just should have played Scapeshift here. What am I thinking? What am I doing with myself here? But apart from that, these lists almost exact copies of each other. There are a few minor differences in animation module and that sort of thing. If you want a little bit more information about the deck lists, my friends, Cardboard Live is going to be your best friend. It's an app that has been recently added to the Mythic Championship broadcast, and we're very, very lucky to have the boys here. We've got Hunter and Wilson working on the back end and making sure all of this information is available to you. If you're on desktop or laptop, you're going to be able to see it just there loaded up already. If you're on mobile, click on that little Cardboard Live icon. You'll get access to deck lists, to a metagame breakdown, and standings and pairings and results and all sorts of stuff there. So a wealth of information at your very literal fingertips, my friends. Well, if you're on mobile, I wouldn't suggest putting your grubby Cheeto-stained fingers all over your computer monitor, but hey, you live your best life. We're going to jump back over to Table A now and see how things go in game number 2 between Yuuya Watanabe and Thien Nguyen here, as we talked about already. Simon, Tron on the left and Scapeshift on the right. Nguyen picking up game number 1, but as we've already discussed, it's going to change a little bit now post-board thanks to the Tron player's sideboard.
Yuuya is definitely going to have a better shot going into game 2, being on the play, and also an interesting sideboard where he brings in black mana and Thoughtseize.
Yes.
So this is not your traditional Thought-Knot Sealer approach.
This is not your grandpa's Tron list, my friends. We have 0 TKS.
And given how many dead cards there are in the main deck, we saw that in game 1, you could just bring in Surgical Extraction. And then you have Ghost Quarter and Thoughtseize to strip those 2-3 key cards from the TitanShift's player's deck. And suddenly you have inevitability.
Oh, you got a stew going there if you can take out the Valakuts. Now, the only thing there, Simon, it's important to remember that if you Ghost Quarter and extract then all of the Valakuts, the only thing you then need to be able to beat for sure is Primeval Titan. And that's a 6/6 that hits hard.
Yeah, but there, that's something that Tron can deal with. Because you have Karn, you have Ugin, you have Oblivion Stone, you have Ulamog, you have Wormcoil Engine. So a 6/6 that just gets any kind of lands that don't deal damage to you is perfectly fine.
Well, let's see if Watanabe has indeed taken that route with his copies of Surgical Extraction. When it comes to Thien Nguyen, I don't know. I mean, I'm looking at his sideboard here. You can also see the sideboard there with the Cardboard Live app. A lot of different options for him there. Things like Ancient Grudge, Shadowstorm, and Reclamation Sage to fight off some of those artifacts. But Damping Sphere really is the hard-hitting heavyweight in that's going to come in for the American here. Yeah,
doesn't have it this game, or at least hasn't.
Yeah, not the sort of card you're going to sandbag.
No, especially look at Yuuya's board, right? We are already facing down Tron here. However, the Tron itself is not an issue as long as your lands don't get attacked. But the life gain of Wormcoil Engine this time might definitely matter, because suddenly the amount of lands that Thien needs to win the game goes up quite a lot.
One of the draws to Tron is the fact that it doesn't have this fetch shock mana base that will often result in life totals falling below 18 or 19 there, which makes life a lot easier for Scapeshift. And every hit with this Wormcoil Engine actually means that Nguyen has to Scapeshift for 2 extra mountains, or at least get another Valakut there. So the numbers really start to add up here, and I think Watanabe getting on the front foot with Wormcoil Engine not really being, it's funny to say this, the fastest way to beat Scapeshift, but it's certainly doing a lot of work here.
Yeah, and looking at his deck list, it's definitely better than Walking Ballista. Ugin is not great.
Oblivion Stone.
Oblivion Stone is only there to deal with Primeval Titan, and you have better answers for that. So ultimately, you have to take what you got, and Wormcoil Engine is definitely good enough to still be in the deck.
Well, right now I would say fortune certainly favouring the Japanese superstar here, as we see another Ancient Stirrings, one of the key cards in Modern. First time he's cast it this time around, however. But look at this. Ulamog, the Ceaseless Hunger. This hungry hippo is going to go to the lunch buffet. And I'll tell you what, Simon, there's not going to be very much left when he's finished.
This is very likely going to win the game the next turn, because unless... No, there's no way to win with your opponent on 26. Sometimes you have these turns with TitanShift where you can play, let's say, a Search for Tomorrow or a Sakura Trap Elder and then a Scapeshift, and it's somehow lethal. But that doesn't work when your opponent is on 26.
No, definitely not. And now a second copy of Wormcoil Engine here. Now, Simon, does Watanabe have 10 mana to cast this Ulamog next turn? Are we going for a different? Are we just going for the straight the Worm victory?
Depends if he has another Urza's Land in hand. I was looking at that expedition map, and that could have guaranteed that he got there.
That's what I was thinking. I thought we might see the old Kraxki on that map ski there, but no, as it is, it's just going to be Primeval Titan. I don't think it's going to be good enough here for Nguyen, however, as Watanabe is firing on all cylinders, double worm coil engine.
And Watanabe knows he has lethal because he's holding a walking ballista, so if he gets in for 6...
he can just make a walking ballista for 1,000 million and then just...
or 8.
Either of those numbers. I mean...
8 mana for X equals 4.
All right, and a swamp in hand as well if he needs a couple more lands. But no, as it is, that is that. Wow, blink and you'll miss it magic, my friends, as Yuuya Watanabe and Thien Nguyen go to game number 3. Things really turned around there for Watanabe, maybe trimming all those dead cards, bringing a little bit more action, a little bit more pressure. But ultimately, that didn't look too different from a regular Tron draw, to be honest.
Did you see any sideboard cards? I didn't.
I mean, we saw the swamp, but that's it, right?
The swamp. The mighty swamp.
Drawing and not playing the swamp. Decisive in this matchup, Simon. All right, well, we're going to check back in on the party here. Sam Pardee and Matthew Sperling. We saw the very end of that game there before, Simon, but now maybe we can dig our heels in a little and actually discuss this matchup. We've got Affinity on the right and Hardenscale's Affinity on the left, the old versus new. Tell us a little bit about the texture of this matchup, Simon.
Yeah, it is almost a mirror match in the sense that you are both pursuing very, very similar game plans. And it doesn't really matter if we're looking at the Affinity mirror match, the Hardenscale's mirror match, or one of these two decks facing off against each other. What usually happens is that the game is won in the air. And that's just because there's so many ways to block, chump block, or prevent damage on the ground, that it's really about getting evasive threats that can hit for large chunks of damage. Because this is not your typical aggro matchup where you can trade your resources. It's much more about who has the dominance in at least one of these dimensions, and or often multiple.
Yeah, so I think it's these are the sort of decks that generally favour people who enjoyed taking maths exams.
Yeah, I understand that table A is more your...
Yeah, it's just like, have I got enough mana to cast this game-winning spell? I do. Easy. Do I have to count beyond 3? I do not. That's simple. But, I think the sort of people who are drawn to Affinity, they're the people who wake up in 7:30 in the morning and like, advanced calculus exam today. Can't wait. Can't wait to crunch those numberinos. But the deck definitely very, very explosive, very, very potent, and I would say Hardenscale has kind of eclipsed old school Affinity in terms of popularity and and results. But Matthew Sperling is giving us something to think about here.
That was a key play there. Sperling equipping the only creature he has, the only flyer, trying to get in for, I would say, 8 to 10 damage. But Pardee's final card was a Nature's Claim.
That's huge.
I mean, clearly, usually your Nature's Claims are not going to go target an Ornithopter. But I mentioned before how important flyers are. And now Inkmoth Nexus, it's a little bit hidden there on Pardee's side, but Inkmoth Nexus is the one threat that stays around here.
But Sperling can't even equip it. He can't even, at the moment, equip a cranial plating to his Inkmoth Nexus. And this Arcbound Ravager is getting large and in charge.
I don't mean the Blinkmoth Nexus on Sperling's side. I mean the Inkmoth Nexus on Pardee's side.
Oh, excuse me.
Pardee was one artifact away from attacking for lethal here.
Oh wow, with the 10-point poison kill.
Yes.
Jeez, you are very good with numbers, Simon.
Just like that.
So he had. Let me have artifact 1, 2. Many lots. Yeah, no, I've already lost count. I'm giving up here, but I'll take your word for it here. Things looking very good for Pardee now with a walking ballista as well. Matthew Sperling failing to find any kind of action whatsoever. I bet he's sick of that. As we get in now for another 6. Oh no, make that 8 damage here coming across.
Yeah, and this turn, Pardee not attacking with Inkmoth Nexus, and that's because he doesn't want to deal with the potential of the Blinkmoth Nexus blocking, I would assume.
Well, that's enough there for Pardee to seal the deal, and Sperling has to pack him up. It's all over Red Rover, and we're going to go to game number 3 between these two players here. Samuel Pardee on the left, equalising at 1-1, old versus the new. Let's see what's next on the docket. Looks like the players on table A are still shuffling up and getting ready. And as we're on mono shuffle cam for the moment, Simon, it's going to give us an opportunity to dive a little deeper on the matchup here between these two players, and especially the sideboard plans. We discussed earlier the impact the Damping Sphere will have on this in this matchup. We talked about maybe Ancient Grudge, maybe Reclamation Sage. What other cards jump out of Nguyen's sideboard here for the Tron matchup?
Not too many, I'm afraid. So what you will sometimes see is players bring in Stony Silence against Tron, because it very effectively shuts off the Chromatic Spheres, Chromatic Stars, Expedition Map, all these utility lands, but also artifacts, but also Oblivion Stone. In the Scapeshift deck, which is so proactive itself and has a good Tron matchup, it is kind of natural that we don't see too many sideboard cards.
We're seeing a mulligan here from Yuuya Watanabe. He's always got a smile on his face. We've seen him have a terrific time in the feature match area, playing Olivia Ruel and whoever else throughout this morning.
I mean, everybody had a terrific time playing Olivia Ruel this morning.
I mean, it's hard not to. It's hard not to. The man exudes joy and confidence, my friends. But while Yuuya Watanabe goes down to 5, we're going to take a quick break. Stick with us. On the other side of this, we'll be back with more Modern Magic from Mythic Championship II.
That will change Ravnica forever. Land cries out. We have eyes everywhere. Lines are being drawn as we speak. Whose side are you on?
Control the secrets, and you control the cities. Death is just the next step. You first.
Steady! Steady! Now! The balance of Ravnica is about to change, and change is good for us.
Welcome back to the floor here at Mythic Championship II, live from London, the United Kingdom. My name is Riley Knight, joined by my good friend and colleague Simon Gertson. On your screen, Yuuya Watanabe facing off against Thien Nguyen. These guys going to game number 3 here in a heads-up between Tron on the left and Scapeshift on the right. While these guys are shuffling up, we're going to get the chance to chat a little bit more about the texture of this matchup. And Simon, I really want to dial down on the Scapeshift list that we're seeing here. It's certainly a little bit of an unorthodox one, and if you want a closer look than this here, if you just click on the Cardboard Live extension, you're going to see the list in all its glory here. I talked to Nguyen about his deck choice. I talked to him about his card choices. And one of the cards I want to come down on here is Monvuli Acid Moss. I think this card is a great choice in the current metagame, and it's going to do a lot of work in this Tron matchup. But in a broader perspective, a 4-mana Stone Rain doesn't seem too great, but it actually has a lot of utility.
It's a lot of utility, and we see just a good estimation of the metagame here. It's a card that's always going to be great if you are playing against Tron, if you're playing the mirror match, if you're playing against blue-white control. I think that actually the effect of the London Mulligan on Tron was a bit overstated, but these control decks are very happy about it as well. Even if you play against something like Abzan, where your matchup is also terrific, historically speaking, this is huge. You just take a Black Source away from them, get that ramp going, and the important part is often you only need to ramp to 6, right? You don't need 9 or 10 mana for your kill.
I think one thing that's really important to note about this is, I mean, certainly when I first saw this card, I was like, it costs 4. This is $1 million. Like, it's so much mana. I'm never casting this. But it comes down on turn 3. And if it comes down on turn 3 on the play, you're blowing up half their lands. That's huge. You're getting a land as well of your own. And even when that's not directly impacting a land-based strategy, it's still going to do a lot of work. I'm told, my friends, that Yuuya Watanabe is mulliganing to 3. So this is where we're really going to stress test how good Tron is on the mulligan.
And we do get to see the London Mulligan in action here in high def. So I guess it's not very surprising you keep your Tron lands.
Yeah, you keep the Tron lands. I mean, that is not particularly advanced wizardry there. But as I'm sure you're aware, exalted viewer around the world, wherever you are, the London Mulligan has been tested here at this Mythic Championship. Instead of just going mulliganing to 5 or to 6, 5, 4, 3, and so on, you draw 7 and then put X cards under your library. In this situation, Yuuya Watanabe is mulligan 4 times, so he's down to 3 cards. He puts 4 cards at the bottom of his library. I mean, they've always got it. They've always got Tron on turn 3.
Turn 3 Tron.
They've always got
And-
it. I mean,
and
they can mulligan to they can mulligan to -2 cards and they still have it, Simon.
Yeah, I have a feeling that Monvoli Asset Moss might have something to say about that.
Well, let's see if Nguyen really has very surgically dealt with the field that he expected here. He's got a copy of Monvoli Acid Moss in hand. There you can see it on your screen. And Yuuya Watanabe, he's going to be able to get turn 3 Tron. They've just always got it. They've just always got it, Simon.
You know, if they have to mulligan to 3 to get it, I'm fine with
It's
that.
okay. Yeah. I don't know what Eldritch Pact they sealed with, some Elder Magic God that enables as soon as you register 12 Tron lands, you just always draw the appropriate 3 types here. But Watanabe at this stage, I think, giving us a little bit of a tour of the fact that this mulligan that we expected to have a bit more of an impact on Modern isn't as earth-shatteringly powerful as we thought it would be.
No, but what we did see is probably Yuuya going for at least 1 more mulligan or maybe 2 more mulligans than he would have.
I agree.
Because if you are on 5, even if it's not a great hand,
Look at that. Get those hands out the way. Absolutely not. Get that out of here. No, sir. Monvoli Acid Moss, he says, get that Tron land out of here. I am not interested in you casting any turn 3 cards here, my friend. And now we are seeing the impact of this Stone Rain with upside. Watanabe, who was doing a good job of getting himself back into it after that brutal mulligan, is now, oh my goodness, he's in a bad spot here, Simon.
I want to... That was a power move.
That was a power move.
Mr. MPL Hall of Fame,
Yeah.
Watanabe-san, please move your hands away.
I don't think Please was involved, man. He's just like, hey, get that out of here. Flapping his hands around. I want access to those lands, my friends. I'm going to blow one of them right up. And so now Thien Nguyen powering out ahead here. In hand as well, another absolute brutal hammer card here in the form of Damping Sphere. So I would say Watanabe here. Are you ready for a Riley Knight's big call now the prime time comes down? This one's in the bag, Simon. Scapeshift, best deck in Modern, best deck in Magic.
Turn 4 Tron, though.
Don't do it to me. Don't do it to me, Yuuya Watanabe. Come on. Come on, my friend.
That was the safest big call I've ever heard.
He's like, all right, yeah, sure, you got a Stone Rain. You got a 4-mana Stone Rain. Good on you, mate. Good on you. I'll let you write the letter to your mum later on. But right now, how about a turn 4 card instead of a turn 3 card? Oh, my goodness. Well, Watanabe not quite with the Khan Father in hand, but he does have Worm Coil Engine. So these guys are going to be dueling 6/6s in no short order. But I still think the momentum is very much in Nguyen's favour here. He's got double Valakut. He's going to be chucking around a bunch of Lightning Bolts in short order here, Simon. So I'd say the Scapeshift player is still with his snoot out in front.
Yeah, and the issue here is you can count 5 Mountains and 2 Valakuts. And at some point you just get, if you need to, if you want to, you just get a third or fourth Valakut, and then every mountain is just an insurmountable advantage. Actually, you can just deal with all of the tokens here. Yuuya is counting lands. I think his best out was actually that Summoner's Pact trigger.
Yes, yeah, I think so. I think Nguyen's not going to miss a trick, man. This guy is...
Would you have remembered?
I would have put so many dice on top of my library, it would have taken me long enough to move them that I would have forgotten why they were there in the first place. But we're going to have 2 Lifelink and Lifelink Death Touch Worm. They're going to eat some Lightning Bolt triggers from the Primeval Titan attacking. Get in for 6, says Thien Nguyen. He's got another couple of Lightning Bolts in the form of Secure Tribelder and Farseek. Didn't even need that Damping Sphere in hand. Easy game, easy life for Thien Nguyen as he takes it out in 2-1 over Tron. So Scapeshift powers on towards the top of the tables here in the hands of Thien Nguyen, but let's not count out Yuuya Watanabe, one of the greatest minds in Magic, and of course playing one of the most powerful decks in the format, my friends. As we welcome you back to the booth, Riley Knight, Simon Gertson here, and we've got Thien Nguyen alongside Tim Willoughby in just a few moments down in the feature match area. So it'll be very interesting to hear the story of that match from the horse's mouth, as it were.
Yeah, I mean, he kind of crushed Watanabe in 1 and 3.
Yeah.
I was actually surprised that Watanabe managed to win game 2 without sideboard cards, because just looking at the 2 deck lists, one is 60 cards that work perfectly in this matchup. The other is a few cards that matter. And if you don't have that card early, it's just extremely difficult.
It's very, very difficult indeed. So once things are ready down the feature match, we're going to head down there. As I've already talked about Thien Nguyen a little bit, I'm going to toot on his trumpet just a little bit more. This guy is, he plays really swift really clean, really snappy Magic, and I'm really hoping to see a lot more of him in the future. Let's hear from him right now. Tim Willoughby standing by.
Thien, when last we spoke, you talked about how much you love playing this particular deck that you found yourself with. And when you sat down against Yuuya Watanabe, it was as if the fact that it's round 12 of a Pro Tour and that you guys are leading the standings wasn't even a factor. When you looked at the deck lists, it was just all laughs. Talk us through what was going on there.
First of all, I didn't know we were at the top of the standings. But also, after he looked at my deck list, he's like, "Oh no, but really Acid Boss," and I was like, "Yeah." So I was very prepared for Tron for this match, for this tournament, and I just felt very comfortable playing against him. But he's just a very stand-up guy. Like I felt like it was like any other match.
And like, I guess that even though Tron with the new Mulligan rule can more consistently hit its Tron pieces, get to the point where it's able to get up to that 7 mana, your deck's one that doesn't so much care if they get the big guns down, right?
Karn isn't so bad. If an Ulamog comes down, I'm probably tapping out that one. But I try to kill them before they can kill me with that.
And, well, 2 out of 3 ain't bad. You got there in that final game. I mean, when you see your opponent taking mulligan after mulligan after mulligan, even with this new mulligan rule, at some point it must be a little bit like, well, I probably got this one, right?
I really dislike that he had a mulligan so much. I really would have liked to play a more competitive game in the last one, especially since I had 2 of my sideboard pieces. I felt, I understand, and I know that he's a very good player, and he understands like what he has to do in the matchup. And after he passed me having 4 mana, he already knew what was going to happen. So I felt a little bad for him, but I like that we could still joke about it, because he tried to hide his lance. I was like, not today.
Not today. Another win picked up here by Thien Nguyen in the feature match area here at Mythic Championship II.
Thanks so much, Tim. Great to hear from Thien Nguyen about Scapeshift. Hopefully we'll see more of that in the future before this tournament is out. Now, my friends, that is all she wrote for this round. Round 12 is in the books, as they say, Simon. But after this, of course, we're going to come back with more Modern Magic from Mythic Championship London. So right now, we're going to take a quick break on the other side of back at the desk, and then more Modern after that. We'll see you soon.